Those who used to chastise America for acting alone in the world cannot now stand by and wait for America to solve the world's problems alone. We have sought, in word and deed, a new era of engagement with the world.
President Obama trying to engage the world and saying you can't, scold us for going alone and yet not join us when we're trying to fix the world's problems. He's trying yet again to turn the page from the Bush administration.
Yeah, you couldn't get a message more different from that George W. Bush delivered, but Top Line begins right now.
Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Jonathan Karl.
Thank you very much for being with us. We're here every day bringing you the latest political headlines. No news to report on Rick Klein's baby yet. We'll be sure to keep you in touch with that.
We're going to break that one right here.
John, why don't you get us started today? What is your top line of the day?
A world stage. You saw the president at the United Nations with a decidedly un-Bush message. He's basically prodding the United Nations to play a more dominant role globally and reminding them that the United States is not going to try to do it alone.
And yet we saw a lot of newspaper stories heading into this big international week this week, John, saying Obama doesn't have much to point to in terms of foreign relations accomplishments just yet. It's a whole list of problems, but not yet a whole list of solutions.
Yeah, a growing list of problems. And clearly he can point to the fact that he seems to be more popular on the world stage, but it hasn't paid off yet.
Not yet. On the chopping block, yes, it's day 2 of the Senate Finance Committee markup for that health care bill. And yet again, the seniors in this country are front and center. There's been this whole debate about how the president is going to pay for this. And one of the ways he says to do that is save a lot of money out of Medicare, which of course the Republicans have tried to scare seniors with, saying your Medicare is going to change. The Republicans got a bit of a boost because now Doug Elmendorf, the god up there on Capitol Hill, the head of the Congressional Budget Office, says that indeed he contradicts the president. He says if you're going to take these savings in, you are going to limit what beneficiaries are getting out of Medicare, especially this Medicare Advantage program.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about taking $120+ billion out of Medicare Advantage over the next 10 years. How you do that without actually cutting benefits is a mystery. Elmendorf says you can't, and this is the thing that is really cutting through in this debate. Next up, strategy shift. The president is considering a change in strategy in Afghanistan, and the big question on this, David, is if he fundamentally changes strategy in Afghanistan away from where General McChrystal wants to go, can General McChrystal remain as the U.S. commander?
This is a really fascinating. Day by day, drip by drip, we're now seeing more and more about this internal debate at the White House. Now we know Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton were on opposite sides of this last March. Biden loses, and now we're reading that Biden's proposal to sort of limit the amount of troops, just sort of focus on al-Qaeda in Pakistan, is starting to gain steam again, perhaps giving the president yet another option. John, I don't think the president has a ton of time here. I don't think they can let this debate hang out there in the public.
And make no mistake, this is the biggest decision of this presidency so far, and maybe of the entire Obama presidency.
Totally agree with you. And finally, Palin goes global. Yes, Sarah Palin, the former governor of Alaska, is giving her first big public speech since she resigned that office. Quasi-public. No press was supposed to be allowed in there. Some video got out on the internet. No claims that she could see China from Alaska. That wasn't there. But what is fascinating to me is that she brought along a McCain campaign foreign policy advisor, Randy Schuneman, helped her prep for that debate with Joe Biden when she was down for debate prep in Arizona. He is with her in tow in China, making sure that this is a bit of a substantive speech, no doubt looking to bolster her credentials going forward.
Undoubtedly, it's not quite Nixon goes to China, but it's Palin goes to China. And let's not forget, she also theoretically got paid a healthy chunk of change for going over there to make this speech.
Reportedly the low 6 figures, so some of the legal debt maybe will get paid off soon. We're going to begin with the president's speech this morning at the United Nations. We're joined here by Senator Jim DeMint, Republican of South Carolina. He's up on Capitol Hill. Senator DeMint, before we do turn to health care, I know you're a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, so I do just want to get your reaction to the president's speech this morning, where he basically challenged the world to not just stand by and expect America to solve the world's problems alone.
Well, the president is right on this idea that the world criticizes us for acting alone, but then they don't help us when we need their help, whether it's in Iraq or the help we need now in Afghanistan and all around the world with Iran and North Korea. So the challenge, I think, is a good one. We need help from the rest of the world keeping the peace. Americans cannot pay for peacekeeping all around the world. And I just hope the president will understand that the only way to make this happen is for America to continue to be strong we're not going to get the cooperation by weakening ourselves, such as he's done with our missile defense system.
And what do you make of this talk of a possible strategy shift in Afghanistan? Would it be a mistake for the president to look at, to adjust here and not to simply send in tens of thousands of more troops as supposedly General McChrystal wants?
Well, a lot of us are concerned that the president is putting off listening to the recommendations from his generals because he's getting so much pressure from the left to get out of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a very difficult issue. The generals know we need overwhelming force there in order to first win the military battle so we can secure the people for democracy to work.
The president does say, just very quickly though, that he wants to make sure that the resources are there to fit the strategy, but what we're seeing now is that he may be choosing a different strategy. So is that not an appropriate decision for him to make, or do you feel that he's already locked in and shouldn't be able to change his mind on this?
Well, he told us in March that he had a strategy, and now he's saying that we don't have one. The problem is the war in Afghanistan and our economy are our two biggest issues, but he's working on other issues such as health care, and he's putting off the decision on Afghanistan, which I think puts our troops at risk. So he needs to focus on priorities right now and not try to ram so many things down our throat here in Congress. He needs to address the issue of Afghanistan quickly.
Well, since you mentioned health care, let's go to that one. All the focus right now in that Senate Finance Committee is really on one senator. It's on Senator Olympia Snowe. Will they be able to convince Olympia Snowe to be the Republican that comes over and makes this what they will certainly call bipartisan? What is your read? You've served with Senator Snowe for several years. Do you think she's going to go along with this?
Well, right now the bill is words and promises. We don't really have legislation. And so I don't think Senator Snowe is going to give in to this naive idea that we can go with these promises, get a bill out of the Senate, and it's going to remain in some form that she could support. I think she's been very clear so far that we're trying to move too fast. We have not gotten the real cost from the Congressional Budget Office. So far she seems to be holding strong, and I think all the Republicans are, that we want real reform. We don't need expanded government in this case. We don't need to expand our debt at a time when we don't know how we're going to pay our bills. I think all Americans want us to slow down and try to read the bill.
But on Senator Snowe, she voted for the stimulus. If she goes along with this, I mean, does it raise fundamental questions about whether or not she's truly a Republican?
Well, I'll let others make that decision. I think we're seeing the stimulus is spending a lot of money, but so far the promises of lowering unemployment have not come true. I can't speak on her behalf here, but so far she has said the right things, and I think Republicans are going to hold together here. And I think there's some Democrats who are honestly concerned about the cost of the way we're going about this. A lot of them know that we're not even entertaining any free market solutions here that would not cost the taxpayers anything. So I think there's still a lot of questions, and the bill is more smoke and mirrors than it is real legislation right now.
Senator DeMint, you heard Vice President Biden this week talk about some politics here. He said they're trying to rally the Democratic troops at a fundraiser that if they lose some 35 seats or so in the House, take a real beating for their party, it is going to halt everything he said that he and Barack, the president, will do. They will halt their entire agenda. Do you take that as a sort of validation for that line you said, that healthcare is Obama's Waterloo?
Well, I'm surprised that so many Democrats are going along with this massive expansion of government and spending, because it's not just about health care. I mean, we've got on the
No, but did the Vice President vindicate your statement about Waterloo?
Well, I'm not worried about vindicating it or not. This is a big battle for the president and for the country to decide which way we want to go. And if we allow the government to take over health care, they're going to move quickly to this cap and tax idea and the other parts of their agenda. We need to slow this down and try to do things right rather than try to do them so quickly.
Just one question before you go. Out in California, you know, there's been this move by your colleague Senator Cornyn and the Republican Senatorial Committee to get Carly Fiorina into that Senate race out in California. Do you think that that's been a little too heavy-handed? I mean, she is certainly a moderate Republican, has a lot in common with Charlie Crist.
Well, John Cornyn's doing a great job recruiting candidates, and California is an area now where they're beginning to see that this expansive government doesn't work. I think a good Republican in California would have a chance, particularly if they work on issues like the water issue in the Central Valley, which the two Democrat senators have not addressed, and they've actually tried to...
Is Carly Fiorina that good Republican, sir?
I don't know all the details
Okay.
there, but I think if she's willing to take on Barbara Boxer, that's probably a good thing for the country.
Senator Jim DeMint, Republican of South Carolina, thank you very much for being here, sir. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Not quite an endorsement just yet. Stand by. Birthday girl Anna Marie Cox of Air America Radio coming up.